The difference between your success on this planet or your failure, God forbid, will come down to if you can forget your dark times and your failures. The following talk, its goal is to impress upon your mind and to deepen the powerful idea that forgetting the darkness of the past and your failures, letting go of trauma, of insults, it is often the prerequisite for your future success. Uli Yosef Yolad Shnei Vonim. We begin the weekly Parsha podcast. Parak Mem Aleph. Pasuk Nun. Kind of a change of pace pasuk. Yosef, we are clued into his life, and we're told the names of his children. The pasuk says, after Yosef married Osnas, Uli Yosef Yulad Shnei Vonim B'terem Tavo Shenas Harov Asher Yolda Lo Osnas Bas Poiti Perak Kohen On. Before the years of the famine came, you know the story. Yosef predicting the famine in Egypt. Before all that happened, the Torah interjects and tells us the names of Yosef's children. Yosef became a father of 2 sons, whom Osnas, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On, bore to him. What were the names of thy children? Vayikra Yosef es Shem Habechar Menashe Ginoshani Elohim es kol Amoli ve'es kol Beis Avi ve'es Shem Hasheni Kara Ephraim ki Ephraim Elohim be'eretz ani. Yosef named the firstborn Menashe, a beautiful name. Meaning, why did he call him Menashe? Because Menashe means God has made me forget, completely forget, my hardship in my parental home. Noshani is what Yosef borrowed the root of the word from to create Menashe, that God made me forget. That was the name of his first son. His second son, the Eshem Hasheni, Kara Ephraim. Ki Ephraim Elohim be'eretz ani. The second he named Ephraim, which means God has made me fertile, plentiful, fruitful in the land of my affliction. Note here, not just the names of Yosef's sons, but the order in which he gave them their names. Yosef, the man who is the Ish Matzliach, the man who is called the successful one, has been through, suffering, shall we say, pain, since suffering is a choice, pain that few individuals on this earth will endure. Thrown to pits, sold as slaves, a slave, alone, homeless, tempted, up against wild animals. Just a little boy he was. After he had grown up in the lap of luxury and become well acquainted with the finer things in life. But no, Yosef lived a life of struggle, but yet he was successful. And when he reaches his acme at the very bris of his first son, after he found a Moel somewhere in Mitzrayim, maybe it was he who did the Milah himself on his son, he named his kid Menashe. That God made me forget. Not to be lost is the great message here. That it's critical for us to see. That the man tells us that his success started with forgetting his pain. And the man who tells us that he forgot his pain names his second son fruitful, creative, plentiful. Is it not obvious to us that the name of his sons here very much connect with how Yosef was Matzliach? The Sforno, you don't have to guess or imagine. The Sforno, Rav Adja Sforno, the Italian Rishon. What does it mean, Kinashani Elohim, that God made me forget? What is Yosef attributing this name to? He's connecting it to the ultimate removal of past troubles. The Sforno tells us the lesson behind the name Menashe. Kinashani Elohim, says the Sforno, Ke'inyan la'asid. This name is the same type of name, an idea that we will experience in the future when Mashiach comes. Ka'amru, ki nishkachu hatzoros harishonos. The future era, just as Yeshayahu tells us, that the former trouble shall be forgotten. The Sforno draws upon the idea of the Mashiach coming and saving us, that we will forget, says Yeshayahu, our previous pain. That is what Yosef was connoting and denoting, inspiring and preaching when he named his kid V'yikari Shemo B'Yisrael Menashe. That I forgot what my brothers did to me. That I forgot and I hid it from my eyes, the former troubles. The idea here, ladies and gentlemen, is that while much of the world is leashed down to the ground because of so many failures and so many missteps, it has failed so many times before. So they go into their future endeavors with rust. They don't go in fresh. They go in remembering deeply how many times they failed and how unsuccessful they have been, but not Yosef. Yosef and the name of his son teach us that to be matzliach, step one to success, is to draw upon the beautiful God-given attribute that you possess called forgetfulness. To let go. To release. And move on. Too many people can't do business with certain people because of how they've been treated by them. And it does hurt when you've been wronged. But if you continue to keep score, there becomes increasingly a smaller pool of professionals to do business with. My suggestion to you, take it or leave it, an unprovoked suggestion, an unasked for idea, is to forget. Forget that when you did your first deal or your first prospective farming of a house listing in Lakewood, forget that it was with the most evil individual you've ever met. Forget that he wanted to report you to the real estate board. Forget. Move on from the man who just wants to drain your energy and probably has his own struggles. Forget it. Because it's a good house and you can sell the house. Forgetting Menasheh-ing setbacks and weird situations is the key to success. It helps you to start fresh. God gave us this ability. To forget things is to be able to move on and to start a new beginning. don't have to be weighed down by your past. But too many people can't call their firstborn Menashe, and they never end up becoming the Ish Matzliach. Too many people say, for 20 years I've been doing this sin, and they can't start new. Too many of us say, I've tried learning Torah, and I've given a real commitment to it, and it's failed 50 times in a row. Too many people, including myself, have taken 3-point jump shots, 10 of them straight in a game, and missed all of them. And had their coach tell them, Mike, if you were standing on a boat right now, your basketball game is so poor that you couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. But when there's 10 seconds left, how do you have the confidence to take the last shot? You forget that you missed 10. You move on and you have a short memory. Some self-understood short-term memory loss. You draw on Menashe and you forget and you move on with, it's just me and the next shot. Rambam tells us that the Darkei HaTeshuvah, a famous Rambam, a world-famous Rambam, Mishnah Torah, Hilchas Teshuvah, Perek Beis, Halacha Daled. It is from the ways of Teshuvah. Li Yos Hashev Tzoyek Tamid Lefnei Hashem. For the repenter, the penitent, to cry out constantly in front of Hashem. To have some pain in his heart about his misdeeds. The Rambam continues, ... Umishane Shemo. As you start to change, you start to become a new person. You should quite literally change your name. Go down to the courthouse. I used to be Johnny. Now I want to be called Jim. Kilomar. Not literally. The Rambam here is explaining his point, what he means to change the name. Ani Acher. I'm a different person. Not that I'm Acher, the person who went off the derech, the famous sage who went awry. But Ani Acher, I am a different individual. I'm not the same person. Ve'eni oso ha'ish. She'asa osan hamaisim. I'm not that person. He embraces a new reality. He names his son Menashe. He draws upon the fact that God made me forget. I'm effectively declaring that was the old me. I'm not a victim. I'm not the slave, the hated brother, and the boy who was thrown into the pit. That was my past. That I am no longer pained by the sting of it, because I have chosen to change my name and forget my past. I am forgetting my pain, and I am not choosing to suffer. I'm forgetting that just last minute I failed, because now is a new minute. The great Rav Shamshin Refoil Hirsch, he explains this same idea on this pasuk with a little bit of a different twang. He points out grammatically that this is all hinted in the word. Yosef's not saying that I'm forgetting the values of his father. I'm just forgetting and wiping my slate clean. Hardly. Yosef doesn't go off the derech and go off the rails in Egypt. You wouldn't find Yosef in any of the clubs, bars, or theaters of Egypt. You would find him in his room studying Torah. So what did Yosef forget? Not the morals and values of this holy Torah that he inherited from his father. No. He forgot his longing and mourning that would have crippled him in his Hatzlacha. Had he ever spent his time pining for his home and obsessing over the pain of how he was wronged by his brothers, wrongly accused, he was just an innocent chap, it would have been useless. to the Torah's narrative and Hashem's ratzon. He had to forget. He had to forget the pain of the separation and the pain of the torture, the homelessness, the sleeplessness, in order to become the Ish Matzliach that he became. Step one to Hatzlacha is to forget. You can do it. You can forget. You can move on. You do not need to dwell. It's liberating when you choose to forget. It's a skill that you can cultivate. You don't need to erase your memory to forget. You don't need to imagine that it never happened. You failed in a certain sin hundreds of times for many years. You can't just wish it away, but you can choose to move on from the emotional sting and not allow it to control you. You can choose to crowd it out because you're choosing to focus and shift your attention to the future. You can choose to replace old ruminations of sin with fresh, new, active goals, just as Yosef did. You can choose to focus on Ephraim, building new, focusing on what you can accomplish, and not trying to pick up all of the apples that spilled from the cart in the previous day's work. You can name your firstborn son Menashe and forget to become Ephraim. You're not a victim. Whatever happened was supposed to happen. Whatever nisyonos you were given, you were supposed to be given. Whatever vivid trauma you can remember, whether it was with your battle with the Yetzer Hara, traumas in your youth, struggles in the office, fights in the home, suffering, you can choose to move on from it. You can. You just have to choose to not be a victim. You have to choose to take the quiet lesson and then shrug your shoulders, leave it behind, and let it go and release yourself, unshackle yourself. Because you have this beautiful gift that God gave you to be forgetful, to obliterate the sting and the emotional pain. The Torah's psychology here on full, beautiful, fabulous display. The order of operations of Hatzlacha, delivered here in the subtle message of the names of Yosef's children. Detachment precedes growth. Forgetting the pain and naming your boy Menashe. It's the only way that you could ever name another son Ephraim. We, too, in conclusion, cannot build a successful future. We cannot become an Ish Matzliach unless we move on and unlearn the failures. We focus on the future and we forget the traumas, the mistakes, and the tough times. The more that we dwell is the more that we are weakened. God willing, with a straightening of the vertebrae and a forgetting of the failures, we too will live by the lesson that Yosef teaches us. That to be fruitful and multiply and to be the most ultimately successful man, it begins with a detachment from the pain. The Hatzlacha is preceded by a letting go of the failure and the pains of your past.
Kilam kedoshim, kilam naivim, kilam bererim, kilam geborim, kilam doyishim.